The next page we'll modify is the blog.php page. Go ahead and open the file in your text editor. On this page, we need to change the following items. We need to modify the page title, headings, and footer. We need to replace the navigation code with the PHP requires statement, as we have in the other pages. We also need to modify the blog posts and activate the read more buttons. So each blog post has an individual read more button. And the objective is to have them launch a modal window, which will present the viewer with some additional content. So I'll show you an example on the completed version. So as you can see, when I click the read more button, the modal appears. And each modal is customized, relevant to the blog post we clicked on. So you can see the title, Frozen Caramel Latte, matches the blog post title. And then we have some content area here. Note that we'll work on the member-only access functionality later on. So don't worry about the logout function and logging in. That's something that we're going to be doing after this tutorial. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. We need to scroll down to line 12 and just change the page title. Do the same with line 35. Delete the navigation code and replace it with the PHP require statement. And on line 48, change the title, company blog, to the perfect cup. And also we'll need to change the footer. So I've just saved the file and I'm going to refresh. Okay, so the navigation is working. The title has been updated, and the footer is also updated. We'll need to change the text for each blog post. So here it says the post title, and it has some sample text attached to it. So we'll just go ahead and change it to some more relevant information. So I'll start with the first one, which is on line 54. And then the second one. And then the third. I've just saved the changes and we can see that the page has been updated. Next, we'll need to add a data toggle and data target attribute to each one of these read more buttons. And so the purpose of this is to launch the modal when the button is clicked. We haven't created the modals yet. We'll do that after we finish this step. So I'm going to scroll up to the first button, which is right over here on line 59. And I'm going to replace this with a button element. Okay, so here's our button element, type button, class, BTN and BTN info. It's a large size. I've set the data toggle to modal and data target to my modal. So remember that the data target will launch the modal associated with this ID. So it's important that each button has a unique data target name. And you'll see that in just a second. So I refreshed and there's the button. I'll do the second one. So this data target is set to MyModal 2, and the third one will be set to MyModal 3. Okay, so we have each one of the buttons done. I'll just refresh the page. And you can see that the button color is blue because of the class we've used. btn-info gives us the blue button. Now let's go ahead and create the modals, and we'll create the modals at towards the bottom of the page, right before the footer. Okay, so that's what the modal syntax looks like. You can see that we've specified the ID, and this corresponds to the button that we created earlier. And then we have the class modal fade. And in the modal content, we have the content area, the header for the modal, a close button. And we've worked with modals before, so all this should look familiar. The modal title, modal body, and modal footer. So I'll save that and we'll refresh, and I'll go ahead and load the first modal. So there it is. That's what it looks like. The syntax for the second and third modal is going to be almost identical. The only thing that's going to change is the ID and the content, for example, the title. So I've already created the code for this for modal 2 and modal 3. And so there it is. Modal 2, there's the ID, MyModal 2. And we can see that the modal title has changed to Irish Coffee. That's the only difference. Nothing else has changed. And for modal 3, the only thing that's changed is the ID, MyModal 3, and the title, Frozen Caramel Latte. So I've saved the file, I'll refresh, and now each one should work. And so that completes that page, and we'll see you in the next lesson.